On November 3, 2020 at 10:06 a.m., a delivery was made to a house in Bristol, England. Concealed in a plastic shopping bag were 4 tightly packed kilos of cocaine, worth about £400,000. Unknown to them, this would become the lead that would bring down a €7 million drug cartel. During the early hours of the next day in a quiet home in Swindon, England, a phone buzzed. The message was urgent: "They know, run now." But it came too late. Armed officers had already surrounded the property. Inside, Warren Allison, husband, father and self-proclaimed businessman, lay sleeping beside his wife, unaware that his double life was moments away from unraveling. Beneath the bed, £300,000 in cash. Parked outside, a Lamborghini bought with drug money. This would mark the beginning of the end for one of Britain's most sophisticated drug networks. Over the course of 4 years, Warren and his older brother Calroy operated a covert empire built on encrypted phones, coded messages and trusted couriers. They trafficked over 70 kilograms of high-purity cocaine across the southwest, all while hiding in plain sight. But what brought down their network wasn't a shootout or betrayal. It was a single delivery, made 1 minute too late, that opened the door to a police investigation stretching from Wiltshire to Albania. This is the true story of how 2 brothers built a £7 million cocaine cartel, and how their final mistake brought it all crashing down. In 2016, Wiltshire looked like any other quiet corner of southern England. Rolling fields, peaceful streets, lives unfolding at a predictable pace. But beneath all that calm, something was starting to shift, and at the center of it were 2 brothers. Warren Allison was 32. Charismatic, sharp, impatient. He hated waiting, for opportunities, for money, for respect. His older brother Calroy, more reserved but equally calculating, followed close behind. They didn't come from money and they weren't born into crime. But they knew one thing: playing by the rules would never get them what they wanted. At first it was basic, local deals, small amounts, cash-in-hand transactions that barely made a dent. But even in those early days, Warren moved differently. He didn't see himself as a street dealer. He saw himself as a connector, someone who could organize, distribute, and scale. And that's when the whispers started. Through contacts, favors, and a network that most people never noticed, the Allisons were introduced to something much bigger. A door into a world they'd only heard about. Albanian crime syndicates. Men who spoke in code, moved in silence, and controlled a supply chain that stretched from the ports of Europe to the streets of Britain. The deal was simple: the Albanians had the cocaine. The brothers would move it, fast, quiet, and in bulk. No more street scraps. This was wholesale. Efficient. Profitable. Warren didn't hesitate. They didn't just agree to work with them. They built a system around them. A structure that, if done right, could never be traced. No names. No faces. Just messages, movement, and money. And for a while it worked. But what started as a business partnership would soon grow into something far more dangerous, and far harder to control. Because the brothers weren't just building a network. They were building an empire. And it was only a matter of time before someone noticed. Once the Allison brothers made their first connection to Albania's cocaine pipeline, everything changed. The days of street deals were over. This was a business now. A machine. And they were building it brick by brick. Their strategy was simple: buy in bulk, break it down, and move fast. The product came in heavy, 10 to 30 kilo shipments of high-purity cocaine, and left in smaller, more manageable batches. They didn't waste time chasing small profits. They focused on volume, efficiency, and staying hidden. But moving that much weight came with risk. So the brothers made sure their communication was locked down. They switched to military-grade encrypted platforms, EncroChat and SkyECC, devices so secure entire crime networks were built around them. On the surface, their messages looked harmless. Conversations about designer clothes, or tickets. But every word had meaning. Clothes meant cocaine. Tickets meant cash. And behind every message was a carefully coordinated move. They needed people they could trust, people who wouldn't ask questions. Richard Cowell was one of them. He was 57, quiet, reliable, and invisible in a crowd. Perfect. The brothers gave him a specially modified vehicle with hidden compartments, so sophisticated that even trained officers wouldn't spot them. Cowell became their courier, their go-between, their runner. And not just for them. At one point he was moving drugs and money for multiple crews, like a personal Uber for organized crime. The money moved fast and it moved in bulk. Managing it became a job of its own. That's where Portia Densley came in, Warren's partner, and the group's unofficial finance manager. She was the one collecting payments, counting stacks, and making sure the cash kept flowing. Quiet, loyal, and calculated, Portia helped turn drug money into assets. Clean on paper. Untraceable in real life. They didn't just hide the money. They flaunted it. Warren bought a Lamborghini Huracan. Then a Mercedes C63 AMG. Then an Audi RS6. All paid in cash. It wasn't just about getting rich, it was about showing that they had won. That they had built something powerful. And for a while it worked. The system ran like a machine. Silent. Profitable. Untouchable. But no network survives expansion without risk. And by 2019 the cracks were starting to show. By the way, if you have enjoyed the story so far, please don't forget to like and share this video as it will encourage us to create more videos on UK organized crime. By 2019, the Allison brothers weren't just operating in Wiltshire anymore. The network had outgrown its hometown. Their supply lines now stretched deep into Bristol and were creeping steadily into London, two cities with bigger markets, higher demand, and much higher risks. To manage the new territory, Warren promoted someone he trusted, Anthony Burke, their cousin. Anthony wasn't flashy. He blended in. The kind of person who could move serious weight without raising alarms. In Bristol, he became the point man for deliveries, handling thousands of pounds worth of cocaine with nothing more than a nod and a phone call. But as the network grew, so did the need for more moving parts. More couriers. More drop locations. More encrypted phones. Every deal meant more risk. More messages flying through EncroChat, more cars running routes, more people holding secrets. And with that growth came something more dangerous than ambition: arrogance. The brothers had become untouchable in their own minds. Warren was flaunting cash with zero hesitation, expensive watches, designer clothes, and those luxury cars bought in full. A Lamborghini Huracan, an Audi RS6, a Mercedes C63, all paid for in crisp notes. The lifestyle became louder. The messages sloppier. The system that once moved like a ghost started leaving footprints. They thought they were too smart to get caught. Too connected. Too careful. But the more people you bring in, the harder it is to control them all. And one of those people, one of those loose ends, was about to lead the police directly to their door. It wasn't a dramatic shootout. It wasn't an inside betrayal. The first crack in the Allison empire came from something far simpler: a nosy neighbor. People in Wiltshire started noticing things that didn't make sense. A man with no known business driving a brand new Lamborghini Huracan. Strange cars showing up at odd hours. Packages exchanged quickly. Conversations that stopped when anyone got too close. One resident described it as money moving like water. It wasn't long before that chatter made its way to the right person. Detective Constable Matthew Harvey, part of Wiltshire Police's serious and organized crime unit, took the tip seriously. Something about it felt off, too organized, too clean. He began digging. Surveillance teams were assigned. Phone records were pulled. Bank activity started being mapped. And what he found was the outline of something far bigger than anyone expected. Then something no one could have predicted happened. June 2020, French authorities compromised EncroChat, the same encrypted messaging platform used by the Allison network. Thousands of criminal operations across Europe were exposed overnight. The back door was open. And inside that digital vault, Harvey and his team found exactly what they were looking for. They traced usernames. Warren Allison was legal master. Richard Cowell, South Kangaroo. The chats weren't just damning, they were detailed. Dates, amounts, drop points, coded language about clothes and tickets. For the first time, investigators could see the network's inner workings laid out in full. But even with all this digital evidence, they still didn't have a clear way to tie the messages to a physical handoff. They needed something solid. Something undeniable. And then, it happened. November 3, 2020. Bristol. The surveillance team was already in place. Cameras rolling. Radios silent. They'd been following the movement for days, tracking calls, mapping routes, watching the pattern repeat over and over. But this time something was different. This time they were ready. The package was small. Just one Tesco bag for life. But what it carried wasn't groceries, it was 4 kilos of high-purity cocaine, worth nearly £500,000. Anthony Burke, Warren and Kelroy's cousin, stepped out to receive the bag. No panic. No hesitation. Just a quiet exchange on a quiet street. He took it upstairs like it was nothing. He had no idea the walls were closing in. The moment he crossed the threshold, the signal was given. Police stormed the flat. Burke was arrested before he could blink. The bag was opened. Inside, 4 tightly packed bricks of cocaine wrapped and sealed. This wasn't just another bust. It was the final piece. The real-world link between the encrypted messages, the money, the players, and now the product. Within hours, the signal went out. Raids were triggered across Wiltshire, Bristol, and London. Every target had been marked. Every name matched. The operation that had taken years to build was about to be dismantled in a single morning. And as dawn broke, the empire collapsed, one arrest at a time. November 4, 2020. Just after 6 a.m. The silence didn't last long. Across Wiltshire, Bristol, and London, armed officers executed a series of coordinated raids. After months of surveillance, everything was now in motion. The Allison cartel was being dismantled in real time. In Swindon, police entered the home of Warren Allison. They found him asleep, unaware that the trap had already closed. Beneath his bed, £300,000 in stacked cash. His Lamborghini Huracan sat in the driveway, still warm from the night before. By sunrise, Warren was in handcuffs. Not far away in Hilperton, his older brother Kelroy Allison was arrested. Calm, cold, silent. Elsewhere, the net pulled tighter. Richard Cowell, the trusted courier, was arrested with the same quiet efficiency. His custom-built vehicle, with hidden compartments built into its frame, was seized on the spot. Portia Densley, Warren's romantic partner and financial coordinator, was taken in without resistance. 4 years she had helped disguise dirty money as clean income, moving cash across borders and bank accounts like it was nothing. And then there was Anthony Burke, the cousin. His arrest came just 24 hours after the fateful handoff in Bristol, the moment that brought the entire network crashing down. But the operation reached further than British soil. Ledian Hodja and Jeter Pisha, the Albanian suppliers, had already fled the country. They believed they were safe. They weren't. Interpol red notices were issued. European arrest warrants followed. And soon after, both men were captured abroad and extradited back to the UK. Then came the final arrest. Enid Aliko, 28. She didn't handle drugs. She didn't move cash. But she supplied the encrypted Sky ECC devices that powered the network's communication, even after the first arrests. She kept the lines open long after the foundation had started to crack. She was taken into custody before she could disappear too. In just 2 days, the Allison operation was no longer a mystery. It was a case. With names, numbers, evidence, and now faces behind bars. But even with the arrests made and the walls closing in, the brothers still believed they could beat it. The messages were coded. The phones were encrypted. The evidence they thought was just smoke. They were wrong. Because what waited for them in the courtroom wasn't a theory. It was proof. And it would leave no room for escape. Winchester Crown Court. Winter 2024. By the time the trial began, the empire was already in ruins. But what unfolded in court wasn't about what they built, it was about what could be proven. For 12 straight weeks, the prosecution laid it bare. Encrypted messages, surveillance footage, financial records. Each piece stacked on the next like bricks in a wall. The evidence didn't argue, it exposed. They read out messages from EncroChat and Sky ECC. Code words like designer clothes and tickets suddenly took on chilling meaning. Warren Allison's handle? Legal master. Richard Cowell? South Kangaroo. Every message was linked to a real-world drop, a courier run, a cash count. Still, the defense clung to a shaky claim, they were just selling fake clothes. But that story shattered fast. Chemical tests confirmed the drugs. Bank statements tracked the money trail. Chat logs and surveillance tied every name to the operation like clockwork. The jury didn't take long. All 8 were found guilty. The room was silent. No more encrypted phones. No more street codes. Just faces, charges, and a legacy built on greed. And now the court would decide what this criminal empire was really worth. On February 6, 2025, inside Winchester Crown Court, the final chapter of the Allison empire unfolded. Warren Allison, the architect of it all, was handed 23 years. His kingdom reduced to cold walls and numbered days. Kelroy Allison, once the quiet strategist, got 16.5 years. Richard Cowell, the courier who carried secrets beneath his car floor, was sentenced to 9 years. Portia Densley, the so-called finance manager who turned dirty cash into luxury, received 8 years. Anthony Burke, the cousin whose careless handoff cracked the entire case, also got 8 years. The Albanian suppliers, Ledian Hodja and Jeter Pisha, received 7 years and 4 months and 6 years and 8 months respectively. Enid Aliko, the youngest of them all, got 4 years for keeping the encrypted lines alive. In total, 82 years behind bars. Every car, every home, every account, seized or frozen. Financial recovery teams are still digging, still tracing the web they left behind. But even as the cell doors slammed shut, one truth lingered in the air. This empire may have fallen, but others are still watching, still building, still learning from the Allisons' mistakes. The Allisons believed they were untouchable. For years they moved like shadows, quiet, calculated, invisible to most. They mastered the art of silence. They built a structure so tight it looked foolproof. They trusted encrypted phones more than people. And for a while it worked. But what they forgot, what every empire forgets, is that nothing stays hidden forever. Every pound of cocaine, every coded message, every cash-stuffed car boot, it all leaves a trace. The arrogance that once fueled their rise became the very crack that let the light in. This isn't just the story of a £7 million empire crashing down. It's a reminder that sometimes the most dangerous networks aren't made up of masterminds in foreign countries. They're built by neighbors, cousins, partners, people who look like they're just living regular lives. And no matter how careful you are, all it takes is 1 minute, one mistake, one Tesco bag, for everything to fall apart. Remember, sometimes it isn't the police or the government that sees the cracks first. It's the neighbor who wonders why a quiet street suddenly has luxury cars parked outside. It's the shopkeeper who notices the same man visiting at odd hours. It's the community that watches, silently, but feels that something's off. And in this case, it was those quiet observations that helped bring down a multi-million-pound drug empire. So if you see something unusual, don't ignore it. Say something. Report it. Because your tip, your instinct, your voice, might be the one thing that brings the next empire to its knees. If this story was valuable to you, don't forget to like and subscribe to Vault Crime for more underworld crime stories like this. See you in our next upload.